Alright folks, my name is Freyn and welcome to the T95E1. This is an American medium tank at 8.0. It's got a 90mm gun firing AP FSDS, and I think it's one that's fairly often overlooked, maybe a bit underrated. Sort of gets left behind a lot, partly because of the 7.7 lineup being the real last strong point of most nations, the last time you don't get heavily up-tiered at least. So 8.0 is not quite as popular, but it's a good tank in my opinion. And I've got two back-to-back replays here today. Not any live game footage unfortunately, but two back-to-back replays from when I was grinding out the FPE on this thing. So I'm on Middle East, and I've already driven forwards into a little rock cluster. You can see RU-251 rushing to the sea point there. And yeah, APFSDS is a real powerhouse of a shell. This is the smallest caliber of an APFSDS round in the game. Not that that should make too much difference, given that they are sub-caliber shells of course. But cleaned through the crew compartments, took out everything, and also the ammo rack. It's a lot more spall than most AP rounds, and definitely more than APDS rounds. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the Middle East as a map. It's very pretty, but in terms of gameplay, it's not great. There's three specific hills that can sort of cover the entire map. But I've come out to this rock formation instead, partly because of this. I can see into the B point, I can see the A point, and I'm fairly well covered from most of those hills. So I've just taken out a Leopard capping B, and now into the side of the T-54's turret there. Peek out a little bit more for more vision. He's trying to back away, he's crippled, but yeah, there's no way he's going to escape that. So again, straight through the tank. APFSDS has fantastic performance against slopes. It's absolutely phenomenal, and will cut clean through pretty much any Russian tank like butter until you meet the T-64. So another shot there. Heavy angle on the T-54. I think regular APDS might have bounced at that angle, but no problem for this. Straight through, and yeah, just gut the inside of the tank. T-62 at the far end, and again, crew down. This is a spot I like. There isn't really a great equivalent spot on the opposite side. Everywhere I've found so far that isn't going straight into the urban combat is hittable by one of those sniper hills. But this one, it's got some cover. I really do feel this map is a bit biased towards the east. Partly because of this nice spot, mostly because of the hill locations. But currently we have control of the map. You can see we've had some people go around the north, so we've got their northern spawn pinned in. We've got people on the hills, and we've got two caps. Now there is a shilker pushing up here. So I'm just gonna move up, and there we go. Through the ammo racks. IS-6. Now, I don't think he aimed his shot particularly great there. This doesn't have amazing side armor, certainly enough that I would expect it to get penned by the 122. I think he just glanced top end and sort of ricocheted off. But frontally, the armor on this it's pretty nice. Lower plate is a weak spot. Obviously, the standard American tower of a cupola is another weak spot, but the frontal hull armor and turret armor should serve you well. So we're losing B. There is a Leopard on it, and some of our players got a little over aggressive, and we're starting to lose them around the map as well. So what we're going to do is roll out to the B point here, and I know he's behind this building, just got to work out where he is. There he is, Leopard A1, I can see his barrel, so shoot for that first. Now it's gone a very dark red in the hit cam, but it didn't say at the time cannon barrel destroyed, which is why I backed off instead of immediately pushing him. I was pretty sure it was down, but I didn't want to take the risk, at least until I was reloaded. So he's backed off, and I'll move in and start the decap. There is a leopard up on that hill in the back. I know he's up there, but I wasn't quite sure if I could see him, so I'd rather not stay in his line of sight. Tuck myself in behind some cover, pick up a quick kill on the BTR there. And yeah, let's just sit and get the cap. Unfortunately, in a game that is now turning into a loss. So trying to rescue games, often it's a bit late. I do play fairly passively, I'm sure a lot of you have noticed. T62 came in and got my side there, but I think had I been more aggressive I might have been able to influence the game a bit more, but I don't think overall it was a lack of contribution on my part that made this a loss. So this T62 got my driver and gunner, he got my vertical drive. You can see my gun is pointed down to the ground there while I sit and repair. But I'm all repaired on that now, I've only got the tracks to go. Fortunately he failed to take anything crucial out with the second shot. And when he peaks, there goes his driver and loader, so he's not ready to fire yet, I'm repaired. I'm going to get out of here before he finishes reloading. We'll go back to my original spot. I just lost my companion on the point there with Martellus' chieftain going down. And I'm not particularly wanting to hang around in that area on my own. We're still very even on tickets, so backing off isn't a bad plan. If I can pick off a few more enemies while I wait for some backup to get out of our spawn, then we might be able to still turn this around. We're behind on players, but it should be okay, I'm hoping. We know there's still that leopard up on the hill who's giving everyone real problems. One of those spots that I mentioned before that completely shuts down the map. And I can see this T62 rolling up. Not quite thin enough to squeeze behind these two rocks, which is a shame. I wanted to roll up and shoot down from above him. People don't tend to look up too much. There is an RU just off in the corner of the screen, which I hadn't noticed. Even now, still not noticed. I'm too focused on this T62. Who just got killed by our Conqueror. Still can't quite see the leopard, but they are capping B. I need to get over there. I need to try and defend it. So it's an M47 and an IS4. And here you see, just aiming up for the M47, and the IS4 pops me through the commander's cupola. As I said before, it's one of your main weak spots. Not so much against APDS, but APHE, which you still see a lot of this tier, will go through. But on to game 2 now. This is Berlin. It's another 8.3 battle, so slight up tier, not heavy up tier. And as much as I like this map at lower tier battles, I really can't stand it in these higher tier ones. Most of the tanks have got the speed to be in a position and shoot before you can leave the spawn. Your tanks are a lot bigger, so harder to hide behind various terrain objects and ditches. And obviously I shouldn't type while driving. But this is my main play these days on Berlin, especially at high tier. It's push down the centre, go for the B point. It's not a massive hot spot, so it's one of the few caps that I feel relatively safe taking. And I really wanted some RP at this stage, because I've still not got fire extinguishing. And by the end of this sort of session I had a little rage quit of just utter frustration with the FPE situation. So I'll pop off ZSU 57, clean through the ammo, very reliable detonations with this shell. There's an IS-4 who's just fired. I know he's got about 20 seconds on his reload, so as soon as I stop being snagged on this wreck, we'll push up and plant shot, clean through the driver's hatch. It will probably go through, even on that angle, his upper plate but just to be sure, we'll go for the driver's hatch and completely gut that crew. I think overall for that day, a good 70% of my deaths were by getting hit in the engine or the fuel tank, setting on fire and dying, and usually taking out the target who shot me beforehand as well. I really don't know anyone who thinks that the FPE and parts grind in this game is a good thing, except for the developers, who see it as a sense of pride and accomplishment for players when they finally manage to get it. I think everyone else would disagree, and it's just a sense of frustration. But enough stalling for time. I've moved up out the river and now taking cover behind this little pile of rubble, trying to see if I can find that T10M. He just slipped past there. He's going down into the water, so need to be aware of him. If we start losing the B point, I need to turn around. He's going to be behind me. There's not a great amount of downsides for this tank. You can see again here the shell performance, especially against slopes. That's through the upper plate of a T54 who was reclined back on a slope. It's not got excessively high flat penetration, it's only 300mm, but due to the shell type, it works amazingly against slopes. There's no issues at all. But the tank's got reasonable frontal armour, it's decently mobile, certainly enough to keep up with the rest of the American lineup, and ahead of the British lineup, probably about on par with the Russians. It's never going to keep up with Germans, this BR. The Leopards will outpace it, but that's to be expected. Reverse gear could be a little better, but it's enough to allow proper peaking. Not enough to, retreat rapidly across the battlefield, but it will keep you alive in most situations. The only real downside is that it doesn't have a stabilizer, but despite that, the gun is still relatively stable. So we've got T54 creeping up on me here. I'm not quite sure if he's seeing me, but see, the gun is fairly solid. Even on the move, you can still get off some shots with good accuracy at low speeds, and yeah, just through his turret, take out all the crew. Martellus is going to push up on the left of me, so I'm going to revert back to checking on the right. There's a T54 there, who unfortunately just killed Martellus before I could roll into view. There he is. Again, through the upper plate. No problems at all. These shells make guns like the L7's APDS look really pathetic by comparison. So, I've been here for a while and I've killed a few players. I'm expecting at some stage someone will want to come back and kill me. And we've lost C, so there's a good chance there's going to be enemies appearing on that side. I don't want to get shot in the back and lose my engine, get set on fire again. So, just decide we'll reposition not far. I like this spot, it's got a good field of fire, but we'll move far enough that enemies aren't going to look at the exact same spot when coming for me, especially planes. A bit taller cover to hide behind. And it turns out it was the right call. Can't see that T54 driving across behind me there. Fortunately, the sun's a bit low, but here comes one, clearly looking for me in my original spot. Just tuck back in case he sees my tracks. He's turning slightly off to the side. Peek out again, fairly stable gun through his upper plate. And with that, I feel it's probably time to revert back to the original location. We're getting all 3 caps, so things are looking up. The game is going in our favour. I've got an IS-4 and T10M here, so We'll just wait, and there we go, peek out. Now I'm not quite sure why that one didn't pen. The T10 does have good turret armour, but not good enough to resist this generally, as you'll see with this second shot. It's at a more extreme angle there, but get his breach and 2 crew. I think it's just the game doesn't really like moving sort of spherical shapes. If you ever shoot at the side of a Tiger's turret with a lower pen gun while it's turning it, you'll often find it bounces. Even when you've got far more than enough penetration, it just doesn't like those rotating angles. But his eyes falls on reload, so again, peek out through that corner plate, get rid of all of his crew and his ammo, and the T10's repairing, not reloading. So again, peek out and through his upper plate. But I could stay in this trench, however, I feel a little closed off from the map. Decided to go back, and unfortunately the T-54 hit me in the side of the turret. Now both those games were losses. I didn't have great success with the win rate on this tank throughout that session. I think the large part to blame is that with the latest patch, obviously there's a lot of people who have seen the Abrams who's now been added and gone, yes, that, I want it. A lot of them are brand new players, and obviously there's going to be a lot of recommendations for buying the Magak as the main method of grinding it. It is a tier 5 premium, so it will get you there with the best efficiency. But that means you're having a lot of players in the 7.7 area who have only got one vehicle, they're brand new to the game. It's tough trying to win at the moment. As you can see, where is it? There we go, 39% win rate, and not due to lack of performance as well. I've got about a 3.5 to 1 kill death ratio on there, which should be perfectly adequate for a high tier vehicle, but still just can't pull those victories out. Still, overall, I think it's a good tank, often overlooked, and I've enjoyed it, but that's all for now. No more rambling from me for today, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.